Hey guys, hope you're well. A little review of some waterproof gear today. I've been riding the Scott, I think it's called DP Pro, isn't it? It was £90 for the jacket and £80 for the trousers. A bit of a treat to myself, to be honest, because typically I wear the military gear, ex-army surplus stuff, which I've always liked because it's cheap and cheerful. If you rip it, it's not too expensive to replace it. It's like 30-40 quid a jacket, 30 quid for a set of trousers, so 70-80 quid all up. I like the fact that it's long in the waist, high in the neck, so you've got a lot of wind protection, a lot of pockets and things like that. So I find it really practical stuff. But I'd got a few trips this year where I thought I might get wet. Ireland, which got very wet. I've also had some day rides around here where I also got very wet, and then recently in Spain we also had a day of downpour. So I thought, you know what, get some decent stuff, and I took the advice of the cat in the hat, is it? Motor Legends, Chris over there, who says on their website he stopped selling anything else because his Scott stuff is the best that money can buy, certainly in the motorcycle world. So I took a punt on it, and it arrived. And I was kind of indifferent about it. It's rubberized, sort of vulcanized stuff, a bit like you get from Screwfix. So I didn't think it was anything remarkable, certainly for the money. And these trousers in particular, for this slack elastic waistband that comes up high, I thought it was a bit of a poor man's set of braces, to be honest. But obviously how it performs in wet weather is what matters. And I've got to say, around Ireland, it performed pretty well, actually. I didn't get wet through the body. I found that I was a bit wet around the waist, but that was just almost a lack of not bringing the drawstring up and over my inner jacket. I found it pretty comfortable. It gets hot, it doesn't breathe very much, obviously, because it's rubberized, so you do get hot if it's warmer weather. I like that there's nice broad cuffs. I found the zip down the middle a little bit hard to pull up one-handed, because there's an overlap. It was difficult to pull up, so it needed a two-handed job. What I didn't like was the lack of pockets. I thought the lack of practicality let it down a little bit. The army surplus stuff allows me to put stuff in the outer, and maybe for the purposes of waterproofing, it wasn't possible to put pockets on this. It just wouldn't work. But I did miss not having pockets because you could say, well, you only put this on for a downpour, but sometimes you wear it because it's cold or just because you can't be bothered to take it off between rain showers. So actually, there's a lot of times where I just wanted the practicality of a jacket, but I got the sort of sweaty impracticality of this prophylactic suit, which I've got to say is a little bit rubberized. It's not the most sophisticated, it's not the most well designed, but it does function. It did work. I found I got a little bit of water ingress in the back of the leg, certainly this last time in Spain. Maybe that's because I was sat on a cool cover, a mesh cover, and therefore I got the back of my legs a little bit wet. So I'd say it's 90-95% waterproof, which is probably as good as you're going to get on a very wet day on a motorcycle. So all in all, I think it is good stuff, and it probably is the best of the motorcycling branded gear or made gear. I don't think that's high accolade, in fairness, because I think what we get in the motorcycle world is quite an overpriced interpretation of what Screwfix are offering. For example, I'm sure I've had stuff from Screwfix which is about a third of the price, which is probably almost as good, not quite. So is it worth spending the extra on the Scott brand? I suppose so, but only if you've got 180 quid to spend on waterproof. What struck me most, and it was only on this recent wearing of it, is that it says it's made in China. Not surprising, everything is made in China these days, and which is why I've sat myself either side of these two Chinese bikes, the Ryu and the CF Moto, both Chinese bikes. And it just got me thinking, there's a big discussion about would you buy a Chinese bike, and there's a lot of people, they won't buy a Chinese bike. They don't want to fund the communist regime, and they don't want money to go into an Eastern superpower, which I get the moral judgment on it completely, and I kind of admire the people who stick to that, impossible as it might be to not send any money to China. And it goes to show, just in this garment here, we've got Scott, I'm assuming an American-based design company, selling it through a UK-based shop, all of which are probably taking a big cut on this. The Chinese are probably getting, £10 for the set to make it. And there's therefore £170 going to the British government in terms of VAT, to the British importer, to the American distributor. And so effectively what we're doing is paying a hell of a lot of money for a Chinese garment. And so the money, in effect, there's not as much of it, is going into China, whether we like it or not. And it makes me think, with the lack of exemplary or high-end product here, I mean, it's an easy product to replicate, just stick some rubber together. There's no wonder people are buying Chinese, and to be honest, if I could buy this similar garment for a quarter of the price, why wouldn't I buy it either? Why would I put money into the hands of a British importer who's done nothing but stock it in his shop? And why would I spend so much money on an American producer, or all they've done is make it, who's sent it to be produced in China, when I can cut out the two middlemen and go straight to China? And it's a bit the same with the bikes, isn't it? You know, CF Moto build the engines for the KTM. Why would I build a KTM when I can just buy a CF Moto? The Ryu, I mean, why would I buy a Ryu when I could just go for a Quinjong or whatever it's called in China? And so it's a really murky world, isn't it, as to what we buy and where we see value. There'll be some people who won't buy a Chinese bike, heaven forbid they won't buy a Vogue, but they'll wear a Scott garment that's made in China. And I'm not sure there's a point to any of this, just almost pointing out the futility of not buying Chinese, because everything, even with a Western brand on it, even with a Western price tag, is built in China. So what are you achieving by not buying a Chinese product? The issue really is the Western products who no longer build and make stuff in England. Now, if this was 20 quid more and stitched in Leamington Spa, I think I'd add a lot of value to it. I'd pay 220 quid if it was given a UK man a job. But all it's doing at the minute is making a UK importer a lot of money for not doing a lot. Same with a US distributor or manufacturer. They design them in the US, but they pump it out to China to make. If that was built in America, I'd pay a bit more for it, wouldn't I? Or actually, what would happen is you'd end up paying a bit more and the companies would still outsource it to China, a la Klim and all the other brands. So do I blame China in all this? No, I don't blame China, and I don't blame the people who buy Chinese stuff. What I blame, ultimately, is the Western companies who charge top ticket for a Chinese-built product, which has got no design function in it at all. Yes, it works, but so does a plastic bag. So who's the mug here? Well, we're the mugs, aren't we? For thinking that an 180 quid garment built in China is better than a 30 quid one off AliExpress. The people who are laughing and the two people in between, which is us Westerners, who do it to ourselves. It's a bit of a rant in a way, but we are getting shafted, and then the worst of it is, there are people out there that think they're above it by willingly being shafted, because it's got a brand name on it. And they bought it from a shop in Sussex, rather than ordering it from Xinhuan on AliExpress. It's a funny old world. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, these two Chinese bikes seem very good quality. It unfortunately means that the Chinese can build some really good stuff. And if we're not careful, they're going to learn very quickly to cut out the middleman. And it's the middleman that's making money in the West for the Western world at the minute. But we aren't building anything, bikes or kit. We're not producing anything. We're just middlemen. And the middleman is very easy to get rid of. So yes, buy a Scott set of waterproofs. They're very good. They'll make somebody very rich. But are they going to be any better than something that comes straight out of China? Probably not. I'll probably stick with waterproof army surplus, to be honest. I like the pockets, so I hope that was, I don't know what that was supposed to be. It's a review of a product. But we are in a mess of the afflictions that we cause upon ourselves.